Today's focus is going to be reading scales, reading many different kinds of scales and using that to help us solve some problems as well. So we're going to be applying the knowledge of reading scales to solve problems. So let's look at a first example. How much more, so this is a measuring scale, how much more must be added to this to reach 900 grams? So we're first going to look at our scale and decide what each sort of increment is going up in. So we can see the big bold line here starting at 0 and we're going round to 100. So we need to know what each of these lines mean. This slightly longer line is clearly in between 0 and 100, so this must be 50, which makes each of these little ones, if there's 4 there, those must be equal to 10. So each of these little lines means 10 grams. So for us to work out this problem, how much more must be added to reach 900 grams, we need to first see how much is on the scales already. So what is this arrow pointing at? So firstly, what is the weight shown here? So we know it's going to be at least 700 and something because we're not quite at 800 yet. And we know that each of these increments is going up in 10. So 710, 20, 30, 40. So that we're starting at 740 grams. So how much must be added to 900? Well, we've got 900, take away our 740, and we need to add another 160 grams. So you could do that by doing a little calculation, or looking at your scales. You could also count up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and then 100 to go. Okay, so either way, whatever way suits you. If you pause the video here and try this question by yourself, how much more must be added to get to 700 grams? So pause the video and give this one a go. Okay, hopefully you've tried that one after pausing it. So how much more must be added to reach to 700? As the previous question, we're still going to work out what is the weight shown initially. So firstly, we're going to look at our scales. It's the same scales as before. Each of these bold lines is equal to 100 grams, and then each of these little lines is 10. So what are we at to start with? We're at 410, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So we're at 480 grams. So how much must be added to get to 700? Well, if we've got 700, take away 480, we need to add 220 grams. So you could have worked out like that, or you could have seen where we're at and then counted on until you got to 700. So 10, 20, there's 120, and there's 220. Whatever way is easier for yourself. Okay, now that was we looked at weight before, now let's look at volume. So if we have a measuring jug and we're going up in milliliters and it's filled up to this line here, what volume is shown? So we need to not just jump straight into it, we need to look at all these little increments and decide what it's going up in. So we know that the red line is going up in 100 milliliters, but there's 3 lines in between. If we consider the middle line, so we're starting at 0 going to 100, if we consider the middle line and think about, well, what is exactly in the middle of 0 and 100? Well, that would be 50. So if this line here is 50, what is exactly in between 0 and 50? Well, the line in between that would be 25. So that means each of these little increments is going up in 25 milliliters. So with that in mind, if you go 100 milliliters, 200 milliliters, and then 225 milliliters. Okay, example 3. We're going to do another volume question. So we've got a measuring jug here, and let's say we fill it up to this line. Slightly different increments as from example 2. We've still got the bold red line is 100 milliliters each time, but this time we've got 4 lines in between the 100s. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces till we get to 100. So that means there's 5 different increments. So if you do 100 divided by 5, you will get 20. So let's see if it's 20 millilitres each time. We have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, which is correct. So if we were to calculate, just like work out what is the volume shown here, we have 100 millilitres, 120, 140, 160, 180 millilitres. Okay, so another question for you to try. How much water must be added to reach 420 millilitres? We've got your measuring jug, and we're measuring up to that line to start with, so how much is added to get to 420? You pause here and give it a go for yourself. Okay, so as before, we're going to figure out what our volume's starting at. We can see that we have our bold red lines as our 100 millilitres, and we've got 4 lines in between, which means it's going up in 20 millilitres each time. So what's the volume to start with? We've got 200, 220, 240, 260 millilitres. And we have, to work that out, we're trying to go up to 420 millilitres. If we take that away, we will get to 160. Either do your little calculation like this, or you can just use your scale to count up. So it's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140, 160 millilitres. Whatever way works for yourself. Okay. Right, let's look at some decimal scales now. Okay, so we've just got a standard scale, 0 to 1. And I've put a few arrows along, and we're going to figure out what these lines represent. So if we've got 0 and 1, and in between there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines, 10 spaces, 1 divided by 10 is 0.1. So each line going up is 0.1. So if this is 0.1, this would be 0.2, which makes the next one 0.3, 0.4, 0.5. We can see that this C is directly halfway in between the 0 and the 1. So 0.5 is halfway in between 0 and 1, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, and 0.9. So that's what, there's 9 lines or 10 spaces, however you want to think about it, and each little increment is going up in 0.1. Okay, another example. This time we're starting from 1 and going up to 3. So directly in the middle of 1 and 3, we're going to think about, and then we're going to look at those next ones. So A, I'm sure you'll know, in between 1 and 3, we have 2. This one here, so we've got in between 1 and 2, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. Okay, so it's one step up divided by 5. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. So this is 1.2. 1.4 for the next one. Then this would be 1.6, 1.8. So this is 2. It's going up in 0.2. So 2.2, 2.4, 2.6. And those are the ones that fill in. So for these scales, we really need to think about where it's starting, where it's finishing. Try and find the halfway point if you can, because that really helps try and work it out and see what each increment is going up in. Okay, so this is for you to try. So you're going to find the middle one, then all the rest in between. Starting with the middle one, that's really going to help you. So pause it here, and then we'll go for the answers. Okay, so directly in the middle, we have 1 between 0 and 2. Then in between 0 and 1, we're going up one step, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. So that's 0.2, 0.6, 1.2, and 1.6. Okay, and that is the end of the examples.